Good morning. Hopefully everyone can hear me. I hope you're having a fantastic Monday. Let's see who we have in here this bright morning. Oh, wow, I see a couple of you already here. So good morning, good morning, good morning. I hope you all had a great weekend. If you celebrate Passover or Easter, I hope you had a great Passover or Easter. I hope you were able to get some rest. I hope, regardless of where you are in the country or the world, you were able to get some snooze and enjoy some good weather, because I'm based here in Boston, as I mentioned earlier, and it is raining cats and dogs, and it seems like it's going to get worse today. So I enjoyed my weekend and even got to go outside and do a little grilling before we have our heavy weather Monday. But you guys aren't here to hear about my weekend. You guys are here to figure out what we're actually building today. So let me go ahead and pull up what you'll need. Give me 1 second. But if you're new here and this is your first time, I actually want to say welcome. This is the Mbadika x Autodesk Tinkercad webinar for Tinkering Together, which is our daily webinar series in which we actually learn how to bring our ideas to life using STEAM. And if you don't know what STEAM stands for, that's science, technology, engineering, arts, and mathematics. I'm your host of this webinar series, Nisha McCrae, and we try to make this very interactive and engaging. So it'll be sometimes I ask you to send me something in the Q&A part of the Zoom webinar. Don't fear. All you need to do is find the Zoom webinar Q&A spot on the bottom corner of your Zoom screen if you have it. In addition, I'm also going to ask you all to raise your hands periodically just to know if I'm going too fast or too slow. Since we're not all physically in one location together, it allows for me to know whether or not I'm going at a decent pace and whether or not I need to repeat a step, because we're not here just to tinker, we're here to tinker together. So as I start every webinar, I want you all to actually be able to see what you need for today. So give me 1 second. Okie dokie. And I'm going to share my screen with you. I wish I could make this a little classier, but you know what? It's okay. Let's see if I can actually get it so it's a little bit easier for you all to see. That is not what I wanted, but here we go. So is everyone able to actually see this screen? I'm trying something new. Okay, see, I'm trying something new because I noticed the Q&A section of the actual chat is a little weird. So I wanted to try actually being able to create some graphics for you all so you know what materials you need for today's session. So as you can see here today, as always, you're going to need paper. You're going to need a writing utensil, such as a pen, a marker, a color pencil, Crayola, etc. You're also going to need a ruler. If you don't have a ruler, don't worry. Use any kind of straight edge, like a book or a piece of mail, etc., that you may have lying around your house. Also, if you want to do the full extent of this activity with us, I would suggest you go ahead and look in your recycling bin or look in the trash, hopefully the clean part of the trash, or any cereal boxes you have laying around, and go ahead and grab that cardboard. Also, as always, we like to first get started brainstorming, then created a CAD model. If you don't know what a CAD model is a computer-aided design model. And so in order for us to do that, we're going to need a computer, and also you're going to need your Tinkercad account in order to get started for our day 6 live session. These are the materials you're going to need. If you have any questions before we get started, as always, feel free to ask me in the Q&A part of the actual Zoom webinar, so I can answer them either in the actual Zoom webinar, or I can ask them actually, or answer them actually live, so everyone else is on the same page if I feel like more people have questions. But welcome, welcome, welcome. Don't panic. We never start at the top of the hour. We usually start 10 to 15 minutes after the top of the hour. And the reason we do this is so you have enough time to gather your materials and you don't feel like you have to do homework, etc. So in terms of, someone asked a really good question. In terms of how much cardboard you need, I would say enough cardboard, if you want me to actually give you specifics, about 12 inches by 12 inches worth of cardboard. If you don't have it, that's fine. You're gonna adjust your actual build plan accordingly. So whatever cardboard you have on hand, you're not gonna build a whole tent that you can live in. So I don't need all of your Amazon or all your electronic boxes that you have lying around in your closet. A small box of cereal should be sufficient in order to actually make the project we're gonna make. So just grab a box or two, grab a 12-pack of cardboard. All these items would be sufficient materials for us to actually get started. I'm going to answer a couple of more questions. So you're going to see me looking between this screen and another screen in regards to answering a couple of questions. So don't fret. If you need me to increase the size of this actual screen, let me know, because I can't see it from here. So let me know if you have questions. Da, 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 da. Do, 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 do. Oh, see? And for those, I see a couple of new faces actually in the attendee part. One of the things that I need to get better about is to stop humming songs that I do not own the rights to. So, haha, trying to be a little better about it. But, oh, wait. Couple more questions. Okay, so if you don't have a ruler, as I mentioned before, you're just gonna have to use a straight edge. You can actually use an app on your phone if you have an iPhone or an Android that is a digital ruler. Hopefully I can show you like an actual screen recording of that later this week so you can learn how to use that. So I saw last week a couple of you all said that rulers are not the easiest thing to obtain in your house. No worries. The reason we are tinkering together is so we can brainstorm alternatives so you can still learn how to rapid prototype or make something that looks like or works like your idea. And just to go on a little side tangent as we wait for a couple more people to be ready, when we're actually doing these projects, you're going to hear me use the vocab word of prototype a lot. So for those of you who are not familiar with that term, a prototype is when you build something. So let's say, for example, you're in class and you're given some Play-Doh, and when you're actually given the Play-Doh, you're supposed to create a project or a piece of art or a sculpture. Now you have one particular idea in your head, right? But if I said I wanted to make a sculpture of a mouse eating a piece of cheese, some people may have a very different view of what a mouse eating a piece of cheese looks like. So the reason you use Play-Doh to make a mouse eating cheese is so you can communicate to other people what exactly that looks like. And so when I say prototype, that's exactly what I mean. It's just a way of communicating with other people your idea in a more tangible or easily to access or understand way. So that's why we use the Tinkercad software, is that one way that we actually use the Tinkercad software is to create a prototype using computer-aided design. So when you are finished, you have all your materials, I need you to raise your hand so I can know that you're done. If you need any brainstorming help or you need any assistance trying to figure out what you'll need for today's project, go ahead and ask me a question in the Q&A part so that I can go ahead and help you as you're hunting for materials in your house in order to join us and get started. I see a couple of hands raised. You still have about, I'll give you 2 to 3 more minutes in order to get what other additional materials you may need. So go ahead and grab those materials. And as I stated before, if you need any assistance, go ahead and ask me in the Q&A part, and I can help you brainstorm some alternatives that you can use from items in your house in order to do today's project with us. But don't forget, it's really important to raise those hands. So go ahead and raise them for me. I see one person. Okay. I would say the best type of cardboard, this is a good question I'm going to answer live. The best type of cardboard is to actually use like an Amazon or a package, because that thickness allows for you to do a lot more. And if you mess up, it allows for you to bend it like multiple times if you need to do recuts, etc. So I personally prefer when you're looking for cardboard, go for thicker cardboard than thinner. But if you have thinner cardboard, don't let it make you shy away from actually doing this project, because you can still do it. You just want something that's sturdier than paper. Yes, so someone asked what cardboard. So the type of cardboard I'm asking for is any cardboard you have at your house. But as I stated earlier, I'm going to lean more towards the Amazon package cardboard box cardboard than like a cereal box or a 12 pack. But that doesn't mean that you shouldn't still grab whatever cardboard you have available in your home. So don't let it hold you back. I just want you to start, what's a different way of saying it? I just want you during this session to actually start working with or manipulating a different type of material. So instead of using paper for this, I want you to use some kind of sturdy material like a cardboard. If you don't have thick cardboard, the thin cardboard that makes cereals or 12 packs is totally fine for this activity. So don't fret on that. Okay, I need to see a couple of more hands raised. I'll give you guys another minute because I see some of the questions are like, okay, is this one okay? Is this one okay? Is this one okay? Let's see. Okay. So give you guys a minute or two before we hop off. And for those who are my veterans here, is this actually better having the materials list instead of in the chat? Having it actually a picture that you all can see so you can see what actual items you need. I'm just testing around a couple of things just to make your lives easier on your end. Oh, thank you. Somebody actually found out there is a bit of a flaw when it comes to the materials list. That if we're going to actually be using cardboard, then we probably need to cut that cardboard. So there's a reason why I didn't put scissors on the materials list. If you want to go ahead, because you want to finish off this project, you can go ahead and also grab a pair of scissors if you have it. We were going to continue the project later this week. But if you want to go ahead and get a jump start, you can also grab a pair of scissors. That was actually an excellent question. Thank you for that. Okay, let me see a couple more hands raised because I want us to get started. With our actual activity. If you're just joining us, I see a couple of new folks have just come in. Feel free to look at the actual materials list that we're going to need for today's session. I'm going to see if this makes it a lot easier. I'm going to stop share. Okay. So I want to see one more time a show of hands. Who has logged into their Tinkercad account so we can get started? If you still need to get cardboard, we'll have another opportunity to grab additional materials that you're going to need for this session. But as I remember from last week and some of you all's comments in the Q&A part, I want to make sure we get started on time. So the first part, you don't need your cardboard exactly. So we can just jump into the actual Tinkercad model. So raise your hand if you're ready to start. And by raising your hand, that you're already logged into your Tinkercad account. If you don't have a Tinkercad account, you can go ahead and go to tinkercad.com. to create an account. And I'm going to put it in the chat box so you can actually see it if you want to copy and paste the link. If you need any help with that, let me know. I've seen a bunch of hands raised. Okay, so we're going to get started. If you're still trying to get Tinkercad stuff straight, feel free to still ask me questions. I'm going to make sure everybody else in this actual webinar are following along with us, and we're actually going to be able to complete the first part of this project today. So, good morning. If you guys are just coming in, you missed my first part of the intro. Welcome to Mbadika and Autodesk Tinkercad presents the Tinker Together Daily Webinar Series. So this is a series of daily webinars, like such, that we're actually being able to explore how to bring our various ideas to life using STEAM. If STEAM is an unfamiliar concept, it stands for science, technology, engineering, arts, and mathematics. And we're doing it live because some of us are stuck at home and need to actually figure out how to do something with our hands and with our minds. So that's how this actual webinar series came about. what we actually did during the first week of our webinar series was several projects. I see a couple of people who were here last week. Anybody want to let me know in the Q&A part what actual projects they brought to life last week? Let me know in the Q&A part. I think one of them was inspired by some kind of YouTube videos that I really enjoy, and we made something. Yes, one of the first projects we did last week, wow, you guys are on it for a Monday morning. One of the projects we did last week was a cupcake topper. And what I mean by a cupcake topper, let me go ahead and show you, because just like I explained what a prototype is, sometimes it's easier to showcase what we're talking about than just trying to explain it. So I'm going to go ahead and pull it up, but I'm going to still talk about it. So one of the things I thought would be a great project to kick off our first week of these Tinker Together webinars was actually creating a cupcake topper. And what I meant by that is that it's kind of hard to not be at school. It's hard not being able to associate your friends or colleagues. I'm not in school, but Mbadika is a nonprofit organization, and I have a bunch of my colleagues and employees and my interns who I've been missing somewhat terribly. And I don't consider myself like a social butterfly, and even I am kind of like feeling the blues a bit. So one of the things we actually did was create a cupcake topper, as you can see here. So this was a model that we made in Tinkercad, and we made a basic cupcake. I like to call it an abstract cupcake. And we also made a cupcake topper that was inspired by the Avengers. Everyone else did their own version in order to celebrate that we're doing what we need to do in order to make sure the current crisis hitting the world is going to be flattened and slowed down. So we're doing our part by staying at home, and we decided to do a little cupcake topper in order to give ourselves a little pat on the back. So this was our cupcake topper project. Another project I see someone remembered that we actually did was that we did a hot chocolate project. But it wasn't just a hot chocolate project. We did something very special with the hot chocolate. Now, I confess, I've been binging or watching a lot of YouTube videos. And one of the YouTube videos that has been inspiring me and providing me comfort are known as Korean home cafe videos. And with Korean home cafe videos, the whole purpose is for you to create cute beverages and cute milkshakes and smoothies and coffees and lattes like you would see at Starbucks or at Tiavana or any other boutique coffee shop, making it at home with cute cups and cute ice with whole strawberries in it. And it's something that I find very soothing when I'm stressed out, which has not been a weird coincidence over the past couple of weeks. So one of the things I wanted us to do was create a stencil that was inspired by those videos in order to transform our everyday beverages into something really cool. So one of the things we actually did was we created a stencil in Tinkercad. And with that stencil in Tinkercad, as I'm going to show you right now, we actually 3D printed as well as made a cardboard version of the stencil in order to transform a hot cocoa beverage into something with a little bit of a more personal touch. So as you can see here, I have my organization's name, and yes, it is spelled that way, Mbadika, that's Mbadika. And I put little stars here, and I put an egg because it was close to Easter, and I felt spring was for a new beginning, so that's why I picked an egg. I know other people picked other objects in order to make their stencil. Then the next day, we actually used this stencil and brought it to life, but actually using it in order to create some cafe art. For better or for worse, I still feel like mine could have turned out better on the live, but you know, that's what happens when you do stuff live. Finally, but not least, I think there was one other project that we did. What was the other project? So we have stencil, we have a cupcake topper. I think we did some other stuff. Didn't we do stuff with circuits? Didn't we do Circuits 101, in which we actually did? Yes, someone remembers. So we did Circuits 101, which was basically our way of actually doing how do you light up a simple LED. Another project we did, which I hope everyone's been working on, who was here last week, was our Simple or Perfect Oasis project. And what that project was based around was how do you create a blueprint or a plan on how to build your perfect getaway or private space in your home. A lot of us have been stuck at home, and we've been having to compete with a sibling or with a parent who is also working at home, or not so much, in order to create our private space as we've been dealing with the ramifications of what's going on today. And so a lot of us have been trying to figure out, what is my sacred space? What is my perfect oasis? And we actually use Tinkercad in order to plan out how we will build this perfect oasis, given common items we have in our home, including a sofa, a bed, a blanket, and try to figure out how to create a blueprint using Tinkercad in order to do so. There were some other projects we did. Like, we did a lot of stuff last week. What else did we do last week? Perfect oasis, we did the circuit, you did the special room, which is the perfect oasis room. There was something we did as a warm-up. I think my veterans are forgetting. What did we do as a warm-up on Friday? I think we took 2 things and we did something with them. What were the 2 things we did? I feel a couple of you should know this because it was one of the activities I think we got very positive reviews on. Yes, okay, someone got it. So we also decided to explore a couple of the collections in Tinkercad. So I'm going to show you right here. So we actually explored a couple of collections in Tinkercad in order to create a mashup of more than one object. So as you can see here, this is my original mashup. And we went into our right-hand toolbar in Tinkercad, and we mashed up items from the Smithsonian collection, which is available here. And as we scroll down, we can see there's a woolly mammoth, there's a boot from space, there's a command module, there's a triceratops skull, there's, I cannot say the first word, but there's an orchid. There's many things that we mashed up alongside other collections or other 3D design models in our Tinkercad toolbar in order to create something unique. Some of you did hearts with orchids coming out. Some of you did a woolly mammoth with a customizable scarf on an actual airplane taking off. I kept it pretty basic. And as you can see here, I just used the boot model. And I'm going to zoom in with my left toolbar. And I actually did the boot model and just had it on a platform to make it look more like a work of art. That was just something that I did on my front. So this one kind of rounded up all the projects that we did last week. If you missed any of these projects, don't worry. You can actually go to our YouTube channel, which is Mbadika. So you can type that into YouTube in order to see any of our past webinars. I know, before someone comes at me for the Q&A section, I was a day behind because there's a couple videos I wanted to edit, but all the actual webinars are now on our YouTube channel. So if you missed any day last week, they're up there for you to review. And if you want to tinker together or tinker along with those, you're more than welcome to do so. Today, we're going to do something a little bit different. Oh, wait, someone told me to mention, sorry, my bad. Someone told me to also mention that I 3D printed my actual Smithsonian hybrid. So this was the actual platform. This was the actual shoe. And not only did I 3D print it, I actually, used a material called composite mold. It doesn't look cool, it doesn't look exact. And I actually put my Smithsonian boot inside of there. And I actually filled this hole or cavity with chocolate, and I made a little chocolate version of my Smithsonian print for myself. So those are a couple of the projects that we did in order to showcase how we can use Tinkercad in order to bring our ideas to life. Today, ladies and gentlemen, we're gonna do something a little bit different. So what I want you all to do is in the Q&A part, tell me what is the weather where you are right now. As I mentioned before, I'm in Boston. It's literally raining cats and dogs. If you're unfamiliar with that saying, it's just raining pretty heavily. And so I've been kind of feeling like spring has been pretty wet and gloomy, and I can't wait for the days of spring where it's sunny and I can go outside and actually go for a quick walk and look at the pretty flowers blooming and the bunny rabbits just pouncing and bouncing around through a couple of fields. So for me, I wanted to do a project to signify spring. But I'm curious, what is the weather where you are? Go ahead and send that to me in the Q&A part, just so I can get a feel. I saw someone goes, it's perfect hot chocolate weather. Okay, it is cold and wet. I know in particular in the Boston, New York area, so that is perfect hot chocolate weather. But let me know what is the actual weather in the Q&A part of here. This is just also for me to know if you guys are awake and paying attention, because I know it's Monday. You got to get back into the swing of things. Ooh, wait, okay, I got a lot. I got some folks actually sending some stuff in. Okay, I have one person saying, it's been hot for a while, it's cold and sunny, it snowed yesterday. It snowed? Wow, okay. I didn't think there were still parts of the country or the globe right now that there was snow. Whew. I know, you know what? Scratch that. I did have a friend up in Canada tell me it was snowing yesterday. So that does make sense. Horrible, snowy. Ooh, okay. It's raining. It's raining. It's raining. Okay. Whew. My word. Okay. So it seems like a good chunk of you, it is raining and dreary and kind of like, today. So today I wanted us to do something light to remind us of I wanted us to do something light and airy that reminded us of spring. I did see one person ask if we're going to do anything with circuits. So we're actually going to do circuits tomorrow. Today, oh, I'm jealous of the person who said it's beautiful, sunny, and warm. Jealous of where you are right now. But today we're not going to do circuits. We're going to do circuits tomorrow. Today we're going to start a build project that we're going to bring to life. So today we're going to start sketching, planning, getting our measurements down, and making our first draft or our first version of our actual project in order to complete tomorrow, along with our Circuits 102, which is our second round exploring Tinkercad circuits. So raise your hand if you're ready to get started. Raise your hand, raise your hand. Okay, I see a couple of people. I want you to make sure you're ready to get started because we're gonna start immediately with our paper and writing utensil and Tinkercad. So let me know by raising your hand if you're ready to get started. I wanna make sure I get at least 75% of folks with those raised hands. Luckily, Zoom webinar lets me know when we hit 75%, so I don't have to start off with any math. But I want to make sure we have those hands raised. Make sure your Tinkercad account is open so we can get started. Okay, we're hitting 50%. We hitting 50%. I see. Just need another 25% for us to keep going. Okay. Boom, boom, boom. Okay. So let me get myself started because I'm commanding you all to get started. Okay, so it looks like I have everybody almost. So I'm gonna lower everyone's hands and we're gonna go into Tinkercad. So I'm gonna go ahead and share my screen and we're gonna hop into Tinkercad here. So here, we actually see we have our blank work plane. For those who were here last week, this is nothing new, this is nothing unfamiliar, but this is how we start all of our CAD projects, which is brainstorming with an empty slate, what exactly we're gonna do here. Now remember I kept hinting to that I wanted to do something that reminded me of spring and having bunny rabbits hopping along in fresh flowers. Well, that's because I'm a little biased. I've been stuck in Boston for the past almost, wow, it's about 4 weeks now. We've been at a stay at home. So we've been stuck inside for about 4 weeks. I've been taking my air and flowers, etc. However, one of the benefits of it being spring and having a lot of water, a lot of rain, and it being kind of damp is that these are the perfect conditions in order to start our own garden. So that's where we're going to actually build. When we think about a garden, what's one of the more popular shapes for us to have a garden or a garden bed? Go ahead and let me in the Q&A section below. What are some of the more popular shapes people use in order to create a garden or a garden bed? So not if you're creating a farm, but let's say you're making a planter with some herbs or making a flower bed right outside your house or in your backyard. What is a popular shape that you've seen of an actual garden or a garden bed? Okay, I see some people say a square. Let's see. Oh, wow. Okay, somebody has a very advanced person who's like, okay, we have square, rectangle. I saw a heart come in. Okay, whoever was creating a heart garden bed, I applaud you. That takes a lot of skill. I'm not going to do that, but you're more than welcome to actually do that. Okay, I see a couple people going ahead saying a square rectangle or something of that. Okay. I see a lot of people doing that shape. Okay. So I'm going to speak from my personal experience. When I actually made garden beds as a kid with my family, we would make them for my grandma or for my aunt, etc. We would keep to 2 different shapes. The first shape would be a rectangle. Oops, sorry. My screen share just did something weird. One sec, folks. We would do a rectangle, or we would do something that was almost like a pill shape is what we would call it, that the corners were rounded and then you had a rectangle in the middle. So let me get back to the right screen. I think my mouse just waved over a little bit. So this is what happens when you do stuff live. I apologize for that. So 1 second. So what we are going to actually do, I'm going to show you the 2 basic shapes that you have for a garden bed, and then we're going to take some time and brainstorm how can we remix this and make it more unique to us for our little garden bed. So first things first, we usually see a rectangle or a square. That seems like to be the most popular answer in the Q&A part. So what I did was that I took the box shape from my right-hand toolbar and I brought it over to my work plane. So let's all do this one together just to warm up. And remember how the Tinkercad software works. If it's your first time, consider this your crash course on how Tinkercad works. So I went ahead and clicked my box shape on my right-hand side and brought it over. And what I actually think about a garden bed, one of the materials we would actually use, I'm going to show you here, was something you can pick up at a home improvement store. And the thing that I got, because I always keep these in the house, is these little Nelson wood shims. So this little packet right here is multiple pieces of wood that we would actually use in order to create a mini garden bed. So I'll actually take a pack like this, and if you can look here, you see it's all in shingles or all in like little dimensions here. Each of these had like 42 pieces in them, and what I appreciated when I was a kid is that I could use these pieces to make pretty complicated garden beds for like my family members or for myself personally. And so I would take this and make box or rectangle shapes. Now, while we're creating our first version of a garden bed, I wanted to base it off of something that I would use in real life. So first thing first, I want everyone to get your paper and pencil in front of you. And you know what time it is if you're here from last week. You know it's time for us to do a little bit of math. So in order for us to do a little bit of math, I need to get my scissors. And I'm going to actually open up this actual package. This is brand new. So for those of you who are based in Boston, you already know that home improvement stores, etc., are still open. And I actually got this a couple weeks ago before all of this happened, because I was going to make this my spring project, because I was tired of the garden bed that I made several years ago, and I was going to upgrade it very quickly as my weekend project. Come to find out, this actually worked well for today's lesson, so I'm going to actually use it. So you see here that I have a piece of wood. You can see that it's a little bit non-uniform, but that's okay. I'm using this just to make like my personal version of a garden bed. So my favorite tool I'm going to use, you should have a ruler when you create yours, but I'm going to use my trusty measuring tape because it makes life easier with this little metal hook here. So I'm going to take this, start at the top, make sure it's measured down. And when I measure down, I know what it's supposed to be, but I'm going to see what it says. Okay, so when I measure down, I started from here, went all the way down to the bottom, and it's giving me exactly 12 inches or 1 foot. So I know that my plank is 1 foot. So what I'm going to do in Tinkercad is I'm going to transform that little box shape to replicate this little plank here, and I suggest you do the same. So we know the length of my plank is 12 inches. So go ahead and sketch this plank and have the length be 12 inches. So go ahead and do that and raise your hand when you're done, because we're going to make the exact same garden model first, and then we're going to make our own. And like I said, this is your warm up for today. And you know, Miss Nisha, I bring out the maths, always with the maths. Now, another measuring tool, if you weren't here last week, thanks, Paul, that I want to showcase to you all outside of the ruler, because I'm always here to introduce you to new tools. So go ahead and raise your hand when you write on your scrap piece of paper. It doesn't have to be in the center of the piece of paper, because there's a lot of stuff we're going to write on that piece of paper. But first thing first, the actual length of the shingle. This here is 12 inches. We're going to be working with inches today. If you want to work with millimeters, I'll be glad to actually research the equivalent. So don't fret or don't worry. If you have any questions, I can see them pop up on this actual Zoom webinar, so feel free to ask. Once you actually sketch a rectangle and show the length of each of these little shingles being 12 inches in length, I want you to go ahead and let's figure out the width. Now to figure out the width is shorter than the length of the shingle, right? So I'm gonna need to figure out if I really want to use this bad boy right here, or if I want to use a ruler, or my last measuring tool, which people last week saw, was this bad boy right here. Now, what is this? Can you tell me in the Q&A, what exactly is this tool for those who were here last week? Who remembers what this is? It starts with a C. It is one of my favorite tools. Let me see. Okay, someone said a very specific ruler. Okay, that's close. It is a very specific ruler. Yes, this here is a caliper. So this is a pair of calipers. It allows for me to measure very small measurements. Sometimes when I'm measuring with measuring tape, it can get very complicated because I can't really do small measurements, because as you can see here, when I lower it, it gets kind of hard. Because it wants actually to length on to something, as you can see. It's a little difficult. A ruler would be great here. So you can actually start off here, line up with your 0-inch mark, and then know it's about 1 1/4 of an inch. But if you want to know specifically what this measurement looks like, we will use a pair of calipers. Now with my calipers, what I do is click here. There's a button that says 0, which allows for me to know that I'm starting off with this being absolute 0, which means it's not 0.01, it's not 0.02, it's 0. So when I open this, it's gonna show me the exact measurement. I'm gonna put the piece in between, and I'm gonna get a reading of about 1 4/10 of an inch is what I have. So 1 4/10 of an inch is about 1.4 inches, or I'm gonna round it up to make it nice, is 1.5 inches. So on your rectangle, on your piece of paper, I want you to just have a rectangle that the length is 12 inches and the actual width is 1.5 inches. Now someone asked a very important question. What happens if you don't have a piece of wood? This is just to show you what real builders use. Instead of using wood for our actual garden, we're going to use cardboard. The reason why I'm showing you a piece of wood is to show you how when we're creating a prototype or creating a CAD or computer-aided design model, we're making something to replicate what the real object will look like. So right now we're creating a prototype, something that looks like or works like the actual final object. This is the final building material that I'm going to use. But for my CAD model and for my first prototype, which is going to involve the cardboard, I don't need wood because I'm going to be using those two methods. I'm just showing you how we're turning something in real life into something for Tinkercad and then later our first prototype. So don't worry if you have wood, you do not need wood. This is just to show you the process and for you to make your first round prototype. If later on you want to pick up wood, etc., be my guest, but I'm going to show you how to use the stuff around you to bring your ideas to life. As I would say, don't fret. Any other questions? Can you convert the inches to millimeters? No problem. So you have to give me a second. But pretty much all I need you to worry right now is make sure on your piece of paper you draw a rectangle, and that rectangle has the length of your rectangle being 12 inches and the width being 1.5 inches. 1.5 inches into millimeters is 38.1 millimeters. That's 38.1 millimeters. 12 inches is 304.8 millimeters. So let me go ahead and do a quick screen share. For those of you who want me to convert into millimeters, let me go ahead. I'm going to minimize this shape for a second and go ahead and add a bit of text. So for those who are asking for it, 1.5 inches, which is how you use inches, is 31.8 millimeters, and 12 inches equals, no, that is not what I wanted to do. No. Okay. Welcome to when you're trying to do too much. It's 304.8 millimeters. So let's go back to here. So 304 See, I have to remember because I can have my piece of paper here. 304.8 millimeters for those who are using millimeters. Raise your hand when you're done so I can know when we can move on to going back to our actual box or rectangle here. Now, the reason I'm asking you to write down those measurements is you're going to find that there's going to be a lot of measurements that come into play the more complicated or the more advanced your CAD models get. And it's always a good idea to get into the habit of writing down your measurements instead of trying to memorize them. The reason why it's a good idea is because eventually you're going to come across a moment that you're like, okay, 304.8, 304.8, 304.8. Ah, dang it, what was it? And you forget. And then your CAD model is off. And if you're doing something such as 3D printing something that needs to be exact, that's going to be the difference between your actual model working and your model not working. And we don't want to see models not working because we were afraid to write down a little bit of a note. So don't be that person, write it down. Okay, it looks like we have a couple of hands. Don't worry, remember the actual width is 1.5 inches and the length from here to here is 12 inches. Or if you're working in millimeters, the width is 31.8 millimeters or the length is 304.8 millimeters. What I like for you to do once you actually have that on your scrap piece of paper is go into your Tinkercad model. We're going to have that actual box shape that we move into the work plane actually be the dimensions of our actual sketch. So we're going to do a top view. So the way we can do a top view, excuse me one moment, there we go. I'm going to go to the mouse and I'm going to add a spotlight to my mouse. In order to do the top view, we're going to go to our left-hand side and click that little camera cube. That's going to allow for us to change our perspective. As we change our perspective, we're going to click that actual box and we're going to zoom in with our fitted view. In order to do fitted view, go back to your left-hand side and click the one that looks like it's an actual camera. Click that bad boy and it's actually going to zoom in on our actual figure. Now, we know that our width needs to be 1.5 inches or 31.8 millimeters, and our length needs to be 12 inches or 304.8 millimeters. If you don't know which units you're in terms of inches or millimeters, what you can actually do is go to the bottom right-hand side and you're going to see Snap Grid. Down where you see Snap Grid, you're going to see what's the actual dimension or the width and height, because it's a cube, of the actual white squares you see here on your Tinkercad work plane. If it says 1 millimeter, then you know the default measurement in Tinkercad is millimeters. If you want to work in inches, the way you can transform this is going over to Edit Grid, clicking Units, and going from millimeters to inches. That allows for you to transform into that. In terms of width and length, as I've said before, you want to make it comfortable for you to actually guesstimate the actual dimensions of your project to double check it's right. Since I know that each of these planks that I had earlier is 12 inches in length, I know my actual work plane, that little blue rectangle or square, needs to be larger than 12 inches. So what I'm going to do is make it 24 inches by 24 inches. This is going to allow me enough space to work on my actual garden model without getting into any interference. So if we zoom out quickly, you can now see that my square is just a small square in a huge work plane. So I'm going to go back to my left-hand side to my fitted view to zoom right back into the actual box that I brought over earlier. Now, sometimes this will get a little bit complicated, so if you have any questions or concerns, feel free to send me a Q&A to let me know to repeat a step or if something went kind of weird. But raise your hand if you're ready to convert your box model and to the dimensions of the little wood plank that I have in front of me. So go ahead and raise your hand on the participant side so I can know that we're all in this together and at the same step. As I said before, we're tinkering together, so we try not to leave any man, woman, child, baby, flower, rabbit, etc. behind. Yes, I still had my cup of coffee this morning, so we're gonna have a very fun time in a bit, if you haven't already. Okay, I see everyone has their hands raised pretty much, so if you need any help, go ahead and send me a Q&A, but I'm gonna continue going. So here, we're gonna go back to our actual shape, and we're going to click on these little white squares. When we click on these white squares, we'll notice our width and our length. If I click on it one more time and move my mouse to the top number, I'll notice that the width of my actual box is 0.787 inches because I converted to inches. That's not going to do. So I actually am going to transform this into the 1.5 inches that I had earlier. So click 1.5 inches, you should see it actually change. Now I need to change the length of this replica of a wooden plank, and our length was 12 inches. So what I'm going to do is actually click here, and I'm going to click to make it 12 inches. If I zoom out, I'm actually going to see the full length of my project, or I can go to my trusty left-handed button to get a fitted screen view and see. Now, because it's 12 inches, you see it kind of tipping over the work plane. All that's necessary in order to remedy that is to actually take our model and drag it back down, just to make sure she knows her place. Going back to our left-hand side for fitted view, we can now see it firmly on our work plane. And that's how we make our 12 by 1.5 inch plank. So you may be asking me, well, Miss Nisha, it's great that we made a plank, but this is 3D design. What we just did here was a 2D design, which is basically just taking a top view and looking at the length and width of the plank. But there's a hidden dimension here, otherwise it wouldn't be 3D design. All we did was 2 dimensions, length and width. But what about the third dimension, which is the actual height and depth that makes a 3D design different from a piece of paper? So what I'm actually going to do in order to take account the thickness, I'm actually going to really have to use my calipers. Now, you can do the trick is if you have something that's less than about 1 inch, you really need to take account all the space on your ruler. So for those who weren't here, who don't remember, if you look at my ruler, if you see where the 0 inch mark starts and where the ruler starts, there's a good distance between where it starts here and where that mark is. So you never want to measure from this end, because you're going to take into account about an additional 1/4 of an inch. If what we're going for in our models is for them to be precise, we can't start at the very beginning of the ruler. We have to start at one of these marks on the ruler. So my trick is I like to start at the 1 inch mark, and then whatever my final measurement is, I subtract 1 from, because I started at the 1 inch mark. For example, if I take my width, instead of starting right here, I'm going to move this down and start at the 1 inch mark. And when I start at the 1 inch mark, I can clearly see it's almost 1.4 to 1.5 inches. Versus if I started here, it looks like it's about 1 1/4 of an inch, because I'm actually applying the extra space here. Sorry about that, didn't have that lined up right. So here you can see it's barely making it past that 1 inch mark. Well, if I start at the 1 inch mark and subtract 1, you can see it's clearly about 1.4, 1.5 inches. So if you have to use a ruler, which is what we would typically use if we're doing stuff at home, make sure you try to get as precise as possible. So using my ruler, in order to get the height, I'm going to start off at the 1 inch mark, boom. And what I see is it's about 1/4 of an inch. But because I have calipers available, what I'm going to do, take my calipers, press the 0 button. Looks like we're good to go. Absolute 0. And I'm going to open up my calipers and actually take a measurement of the actual thickness. And it's coming out, wow, okay. It's coming out 0.27 inches. I like to be precise, but I think we're fair to say we can stick to it being 0.25 inches. So the height of our actual box model in Tinkercad needs to be 0.25 inches. For those who are doing it in millimeters, I'm going to go ahead and convert that for you as well. So here, I'm going to go back into Tinkercad, and instead of doing a top view from my actual left-hand cube here, I'm going to go to the home view, which is going to be something that allows for me to see, if I zoom out a bit, allows for me to see not only length, width, but height as well. And I'm going to transform that height, which is the center white cube here. we see the height is 0.787 inches. I'm going to translate that into 0.25 inches to take into account the height. And you see here, the actual thickness of that wood plank looks quite similar to the one I showed you earlier. Now, for those who need a conversion, 0.25 inches is 6.35 millimeters. So if we go back, I'm going to already add it to the text, is 0.35 millimeters. So 0.25 inches equals 0.35 millimeters, if I'm correct. Let me go ahead here. Let me double check. Oh, 6.35 millimeters. See, even my memory is off. Let me go ahead, erase that percentage you did not see. It is 0.25 inches equals 6.35 millimeters. I just left off a whole 6 millimeters. So there we have it. So if I look into the shape here at this angle, I'm going to zoom in. The thickness in regards to, or in comparison to the length and the width, looks about right. So go ahead and do that and raise your hand once you have an actual CAD model of the plank like I showed you earlier. So go ahead and raise your hand to let me know you're at that point. If you have any questions or you're struggling, go ahead and hit me in the Q&A part so you can know. I see someone who said, what is the height of the plank? The height of the plank is 0.25 inches or 6.35 millimeters. It's right here. I'm going to add a little bit of text so I can go ahead and say this is the height or depth of the actual plank. Do you guys feel like you're being real engineers today? We're actually taking a real object in real life and measuring it and replicating that object in Tinkercad. And to make this even come a little closer to home, I'm gonna actually change the color. So here you can see we have some presets. I'm gonna do one that's closer to wood in order to make this look a little bit more realistic for what we're doing today. So go ahead, don't forget, you have a 1.5 inch. If you can see here, 1.5 inches is the width, 12 inches is the length, and if we go here, it's 1/4 of an inch height. Let me get her down. So you see here, it's 1.5 inches. If I click, sometimes if you're trying to get the measurements, feel free to click that little white square in order to hold the measurements for a second so you have enough time to go over. So you see 1.5 inches here and 12 inches there. I'm going to click the white square here, and it's 1/4 of an inch here. So raise your hand if you were able to get this CAD model. If you weren't able to, go ahead and ask me a question in the Q&A part to let me know if we should move on or if we're at a good spot. So as I told you before, raising your hand lets me know if we're in a good spot to keep going. Okay, I see a couple more hands raised. No sweat, no sweat. I'm going to give you guys 2 more minutes to get this plank because the hard part is done. We actually made the base model for our garden bed. So remember, if you're doing inches, 1.5 by 12 inches, and it was 31.5 inches as the width, and 308.5 was the length, and 6.35, I keep saying inches. Laura, this is what happens when you try to switch between conversions. If you actually have a particular question, just let me know before I mess you all up in terms of your conversion numbers. But let's give everybody just 1 more minute before we move on. And feel free, if you actually are struggling, don't try to struggle alone. I can really do this again if it's actually helpful for you. We're tinkering together, folks. There's no need to suffer, okay? I want to see a couple more hands raised before we move on, just so I know that you're good. Okay, I see a couple more hands raised. I don't like to move on until I at least have 50% hands raised, because what I've noticed is that if I go, hey, I see 2 or 3 people's hands raised, it's like, oh, okay, I'm good to go. And then unfortunately, oh, wait. Okay. And what I'll notice is, particularly with people who want to struggle alone, is that when I do these webinars and there's a live recording, I'm getting questions on our YouTube channel and realizing that you all probably had questions you just didn't feel you could ask them. So while you're participating in the live session, sorry, someone said I was sounding a little glitchy. One moment. Oh, figured out what it was. So as you guys were mentioning, it's some parts of the US or some parts of the world, it's actually raining cats and dogs, or it's heavy downpour. So let me see if I can adjust my audio settings a little bit. In the Q&A part, can someone let me know if my sound is coming a little bit better now that I've adjusted a bit? Okay, thank you so much. Sorry about that. So sometimes because of internet connection, whenever you having thunderstorms or any kind of storms in the area, sometimes the connection can get kind of womp, 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 and we don't want that. So hopefully everybody was able to get to this part of the activity, that you have a plank that is 0.25 inches by 1.5 inches by 12 inches. So when we're actually looking at our wooden plank, we're not just looking at one plank, right? We're gonna be using multiple planks in order to bring our actual project to life. So for example, these planks that I am modeling, we're gonna actually just stack up in order to create, see, I'm trying to do this while doing this live. We're gonna start stacking up in order to make each side of our garden bed, correct? So we need to figure out how to duplicate our first wooden plank and connect it to our second one in order to make our first of our garden bed. So what we're gonna do in Tinkercad is we're gonna do duplicate and repeat. For those who saw this tool's power in action, I highly, highly recommend one of the videos that is on our YouTube channel, which is of a Cupcake Topper project that we show you the full strength of this tool. And it's also one of the great webinars that we did last week. If you haven't, don't worry, I'm gonna show you how we can do this using Tinkercad. So first things first, we had our first barrier to entry, which was creating our first wooden plank. And now we're gonna jazz it up and create our first side. So the first thing we're gonna do is go back into Tinkercad, and I'm gonna click the home button in order to reset so I can kind of see what's going on. I'm zooming out a little bit because remember, I have such a huge work plane. I have a 24-inch by 24-inch work plane, which is pretty much 2 foot by 2 foot. If you don't know what 2 feet looks like, I want you to look at your leg. Most likely, your leg is 2 feet long. Just to give you context, this is 1 foot. This right here, from here to here is 1 foot. So your work plane is going to look out of sorts because 2 feet starting from here goes like this. So don't worry if you have to zoom out a lot. I saw someone ask that question if their dimensions are off. Your dimensions aren't off. We're doing 2 foot by 2 foot because we have a pretty big garden bed that we're designing. So here we have our first wooden plank. What we're going to do is actually click on the left-hand side. Let me go ahead and add a little spotlight to it so it gets all the shine that it needs. Go to the left-hand side and click the duplicate tool and repeat. If you're using your keyboard, go ahead and click Control-D in order to do the same step. So we're going to click duplicate and repeat. And we're going to use our actual keyboard, and I'm using the left arrow key in order to gently move my plank across. If you want to make bigger movements with your arrow key, I'm gonna go back a couple spaces. Here's another trick that you can use in Tinkercad. So follow my little spotlight. If you go down to your lower right-hand side, where I told you you can actually use as a reference point for whether or not you're in inches or millimeters, you can actually find something that says Snap Grid. What Snap Grid does, it actually dictates what's the actual dimensions of each of those little squares that you see in your work plane. Each of those squares represents a measurement. So right now that measurement is 1/8 of an inch. So every time I use the left arrow key or the right arrow key, I'm going in either direction 1/8 of an inch. If I want to make that larger, what I can do is go down to Snap Grid and change it to 1/4 of an inch. And you'll see when I move left or right, I'm doing much greater movements than before. To show you a little bit closer, I'm going to use the fitted view on the left-hand side. I'm going to do the same thing with my mouse. I'm going to go right, I'm going to go left, right, left. And you can already tell it's a huge jump from before. If I want to make my jumps a little smaller, I can go back down to Snap Grid, and let's say I want to make it 1/16 of an inch. If I want to make slower movements, you can see here, this is not as large of a jump from the left or the right as it was when we had it as 1/4 of an inch. So sometimes when you make more precise models, go ahead to your Snap Grid and make it smaller, your actual squares, in order to make it more precise. So go ahead and do that. In order to do so, if you're having trouble duplicating the wood, click your wooden plank, go over to your left-hand side, click the duplicate and repeat, and you'll notice that it actually made another plank the same distance away. What I love about that duplicate and repeat tool, it actually memorizes your movements in order to actually do the same thing over and over again. That's the duplicate and repeat and the duplicate and repeat tool. Now, I'm going to do this all over again, so no frets. I'm actually going to start back with the one block. Some of you are asking, how do you actually change your work plane dimensions? Don't worry, I'm going to start from scratch quickly just to show you how we did it. If you go to your lower right-hand side, you'll see something called Edit Grid. Click Edit Grid, and you'll see here you can actually change your units. So you can change from inches to millimeters and vice versa. I'm sticking to inches because it's something that's familiar to my American audiences. If you prefer millimeters, first up, bravo to you. That is actually the preferred measurements of engineers. So I applaud you for getting started on using millimeters. But if you want to change your work plane, you have to come down here. Now here it explains the width and length of your work plane. As I mentioned before, typically when we're doing smaller projects, like projects you can hold in your hand, I would make these dimensions 10 inches by 10 inches. That's because to me, I'm used to dealing with 10 inches by 10 inches, which is a little less than the length of our wooden plate. However, if each of our planks are 12 inches by 1.5 inches, we need a work plane that's at least double that size in order to make a replica of our garden bed. So what I did was I made my width 24 inches and my length 24 inches. And then I updated my grid. That allowed for me to have a bigger grid in order to have my 12-inch by 1.5-inch plank with a 1/4 inch height. Next up, I clicked my actual wooden plank, and I'm going to click the fitted view on the left-hand side. And I went over to the top left toolbar right here, and I clicked the duplicate and repeat tool. If you don't want to use the upper toolbar in Tinkercad, feel free to use the actual keyboard command, Control-D. When you do duplicate and repeat, Tinkercad starts paying attention to your movements with the clone plank. So what I'm going to do is move it over. And right now I'm moving it over 1/16 of an inch. So every time I move it over with my actual keyboard arrow keys, I'm only moving it 1/16 of an inch. If you want to make your movements more dramatic, go down to Snap Grid, which is on the bottom right-hand side, where you can see my little spotlight here. Click down, and to make it larger, you're going to go to 1/8 of an inch. And you'll notice that my movements are more dramatic than they were before, meaning when I click my right arrow key, instead of going 1/16 of an inch, which is like a little bit of a hop, I go a bigger hop. The reason why you will want to use your arrow key instead of using your mouse is because when you're making a precise replica like we're going to be doing, you want to make sure that it lines up perfectly. Sometimes with our mouse, unless you have excellent motor coordination, you're going to find that you still move your shape a little too much or too little, and you're going to mess up your design. So I prefer to use my arrow key so I know I'm moving exactly 1/16 of an inch or 1/8 of an inch, etc. So let's see if there's any other questions before we show the duplicate key. The duplicate key is the Control-D. So Control-D on your keyboard is the actual duplicate key that I'm using. If you don't want to use it on your keyboard, go to your upper left-hand side, and I'm going to show you where that key is because we're going to use it in a moment. So here, I want to move my plank, as you can see here. I want to move it so it's exactly up against the other plank. So I'm going to delete. I'm going to show it one more time, so no sweat. I'm going to go to my upper left-hand side. Let me go ahead and put a spotlight on it so you guys can follow me. On the upper left-hand side, you'll see something that looks like a stack of multiple papers. Not a stack of two, but a stack of multiple papers. That's the duplicate and repeat tool. If Control-D doesn't work on your keyboard because you're using a Mac, etc., then what you can do is click the upper left-hand side to the duplicate and repeat tool. I'm going to use my keyboard in order to move it a certain number of steps like I did before. Now, what I want to do is have these two pieces line up, just like I showed you with the wooden planks. So you saw how I did that there, that they're lining up. The reason why I want it to look like that is that I want my wooden plank bottom to match up to this plank like such. So in order to do this, I want to make it line up a little bit better in Tinkercad. In order to have it look like this, I want to make sure there's no gaps like you see here. I want this to line up perfectly, which is why I'm being so careful with my keyboard. So every time I'm moving it just a little bit to make sure these two pieces are lined up in order to make one side of my garden bed. Typically, I'm going to do a garden bed with 3 planks stacked on top of each other. This I'm only showing 2 because my hands can't hold 3, but that's beside the point. Let's go back into Tinkercad so I can actually show you what I'm talking about. So here, I have this lined up the way I want to. Once I have it lined up, I'm going to put the spotlight back on my mouse so you can see. Once these 2 planks are lined up, I'm going to go back to my left-hand side and click the duplicate and repeat tool again. Once I do that, you'll notice a 3rd plank appears. The reason the 3rd plank appears is what I said before. Tinkercad was watching your move when you duplicated this middle plank right here. And every time we moved it to get it to a certain spot, Tinkercad was like, oh, that's what she's doing. Well, we can do that and save her the trouble. So let's say I wanted to make this side of my garden bed, or whatever side this is going to be. Let's say I wanted to make this 5 wooden planks high. All I have to do is keep clicking the duplicate and repeat tool, and it repeats the same movements I did before. If you want to undo, just click Control-Z in order to undo back to 3 planks. 3 planks is what I feel comfortable with, so that's what I'm actually going to do. And let me see by a show of hands who's still following me and who's gotten to this point. Don't be shy. I want to make sure we're all in this together and we're all on the same part. No worries. I apologize for the glitchiness. As I said, the weather is not terribly great here. So just wanted to make sure that everyone's with us. And any part of my explanation didn't glitch out, so you guys missed that part. I'm going to wait for a couple of more hands to be raised before we continue moving. Now, this is probably one of the more higher or more advanced skills that you can learn in Tinkercad, but it's such a time saver because what it allows for you to do is instead of trying to make sure everything's aligned up perfectly, you can trust that once you line it up perfectly once, you can just replicate or duplicate that same command in order to make your life so much easier. Okay, we have a bunch of hands raised, so I'm going to lower everyone's hands. And what I'm actually going to do is we need to make sure this side is grouped together. So what I'm going to do is click one of the panels or one of the wooden planks. I'm going to press down my Shift key and select all the actual planks. Once I select all the planks, I need all of them to merge or be grouped together. So what I'm going to do is go over to the group tool or do Control-G on your keyboard if you have a PC, or do the Mac equivalent. And you can see that I've made it into one. Now, if you want to keep those sharp lines like you would have for a typical wooden plank with 3 planks against it, let's go back to Ungroup. And I'm going to show you a different way of doing this. So I'm going to click off. If Tinkercad lets me do that. So as I mentioned, sometimes Tinkercad is your friend, sometimes it's not. You got to let it Just let it have its moment. Okay, it seems like it's almost finished with it being a little glitchy here. As I said before, it's storming on my side, so I'm gonna just go ahead and reload my 3D design model. If you find that Tinkercad is being glitchy, go ahead and reload. One of the nice things about Tinkercad being a browser-based software is that it actually saves constantly your CAD designs. So if you ever find yourself in a weird position that you're like, yeah, this ain't working for me, go ahead and feel free to use that refresh button. Sometimes you'll lose a part of your project that you did in the last minute or two, but that's better than sitting there for 10 to 15 minutes waiting for it to come back. So as you saw with the quick refresh, I can actually individually select the wooden planks. I'm gonna do something a little extra while I'm waiting for a couple more folks to raise their hands. I'm gonna change some of the wood plank colors to give it a little bit more dimension. So I'm gonna go here. I'm gonna add maybe a darker wood just to do that way. And instead of using the shift key on my actual keyboard in order to select all the shapes, what I'm gonna do is click my mouse up here since there's no other shapes on my work plane, and I'm gonna drag it across. And so when I drag it across, it should select all 3 shapes. To double check it selects all 3 shapes, you can actually zoom in and you'll see a very faint, almost light blue outline. That means that object is currently selected. On top of that, if you want to triple check that you selected that shape, go ahead to your right-hand side and you'll see shapes 3. That tells you how many shapes that you selected and grouped together before you can actually hit that group button to merge it into one beautiful piece. But wait, we made a mistake there, because we've seen our 3 planks got merged into one color. But don't fret. If we go down to our actual shape toolbar, we can go to the multicolor and select multicolor to keep that 3-color triangle or trio. Why is it triangle? Keep that 3-color trio going in order to make a beautiful side panel of our garden. So once we hit that, we now need to figure out how to transform our 2 actual panels, well, 3 panels that we found merged from this, which is done lying on the work plane, to this, actually looking like the side of a garden. So what we're gonna actually do is we're gonna need to rotate our actual garden side to make it look more, not like a flat bed, but an actual side. So I'm gonna show you how to do that by using the rotate tool. So let's go back into Tinkercad. Press the wrong button, but it's okay. If you look at your actual group shape, I'm gonna go ahead and put a spotlight on it so you can see where I'm at on my work plane. If you look right here, you'll see there's a double arrow. If you zoom in on that double arrow and you click, you can actually rotate your figure 90 degrees. So once you start rotating, go ahead and click that number box and type in 90 degrees. That's gonna make our actual wooden planks turn so they're sitting upright. So instead of going horizontal or on line with the work plane, we're gonna have it sitting straight up and going through the work plane. Another thing we noticed once we rotated it, if we go to a home view and zoom out, is that we'll notice that half of our actual wooden plank side is going through the work plane. If we change our camera angle on the left-hand side, we'll notice almost half of our actual garden bed side is through the work plane, which is this part right here. So what we're gonna actually do is we're gonna zoom out and we're gonna raise this so it's not sitting into the work plane. So when we click our black triangle here, we can raise our object in and out of the work plane. If you notice when I'm moving it upside down, the only number that's changing is this number over here on the right-hand side. In order to save ourselves being extra particular, I know 0 is the work plane. So if I enter the number 0, I know my object is going to be sitting exactly on the work plane. So instead of being cut in half, if we look at a front view, it's sitting exactly on the work plane here. So let's change our camera angle back on the left-hand side to home view, and we can see that it's no longer going through the work plane. So seems like we did a pretty good job, right? Now, when we do a garden bed, we said the basic garden bed shape that we were going to do today was going to be a rectangle, correct? So in order to do a rectangle or even a square, how many sides does a rectangle or square have? Let me know in the Q&A part. This is a softball warm-up question. Shouldn't be that difficult. How many sides does a square or a rectangle have? Go ahead and answer in the Q&A part. Okay, I see some people. Okay, I see you. So if you actually have a cube, then you actually have 6 sides, right? If you have a square or a rectangle, then you have 4 sides. So when we're actually making our square or rectangle, we're just going to stick to 4 sides. Now that other number of sides is going to come into play because our garden is going to need an actual bottom to actually put the plants in. So for right now, let's actually make the long ways. Oh, short ways. I said long ways size. 2 sides long ways, 2 sides short ways. So what you're going to see how to do that easy without having to go through the whole process we just went through. So as you can see here, we have our little word. If we remember correctly, the length of this is 12 inches. So let's go ahead and add that as our note. If we remember, the length of it is 12 inches. If you're doing millimeters, I trust you remember. So the length is 12 inches, right? And that's the length of a plank, wooden plank. The width is 1.5 inches, and the height, or the thickness, is 0.25 inches. Now, when we make our garden bed, if we want our garden bed shape to be pretty much a square, for example, we know for a square, the length and the width have to be equal. If we know the length of our first side from here to here is 12 inches. That means the length and the width of our actual garden needs to be 12 inches by 12 inches. So let's go ahead and add that to our side. So that means our square, which has 4 sides, needs to have the length and width be equal, which means the length equals the width. Ooh, that was the wrong symbol. Equals 12 inches. The way we can make sure that we're following that correctly is we can go back to our right-hand toolbar, click on the, I keep doing this no matter how much I do these Zoom webinars, I always make that mistake. I'm so sorry, guys. But I'm gonna go to my right-hand toolbar and drag over a box shape. When I drag over the box shape, I'm gonna zoom into my fitted view that you can see on the left-hand side. I'm going to minimize my shape so you can actually see our toolbar and our little notes here. And I now know that for my little base, it needs to be 12 inches. And using the tab key, 12 inches. Ah, I did something wrong. Okay, no, it looks like I did right. Okay, I did right. So we know that this needs to look like 12 inches by 12 inches, like our red base here. In order to make this look like dirt, I'm going to actually change it to black to replicate soil. So we now know that the size of our garden bed has to cover each side of our square here. Now let me show you a trick. If we click our home view, is zooming in too much? I'm going to just zoom out a little bit. I'm going to move this so it fits right in line here. Now remember what my favorite tool is? My favorite tool is the Align tool. And we're going to be able to use that right now. So go ahead and select your garden bed, which is this box here being replicated by the black color, because this is looking like the soil that's going to be in your garden bed. So let's click this and let's click one of the sides here. And we're going to try to align this side of our square garden bed with the base of our garden bed here using the Align tool. The Align tool is a special tool to make sure everything is straight. So we can find it on the upper right-hand side of our toolbar. We're going to select it, and you'll see all these dots come up. If you're new here, one of the cool things about Tinkercad is we can click one of these dots, and we can see a faint outline of one of these models here. So as you can see, I can kind of see the future and see if it jives with me. I'm a stickler, so I'm going to go to my left-hand camera angle and do a top view. to make sure that this looks aligned. If something looks aligned and looks okay, go ahead and click that dot and it aligns that way. I don't need to align it here because I already know that's not going to count here. But what I do want to see, which seems it already has solved for me, is making sure when I look at the front view via my left angle, you see a light gray like that, it means it's already aligned. You don't have to worry about it. This only because of concern, as you saw earlier with that wooden plank going through the work plane, we don't want that to happen. Now you may be asking, okay, Miss Nisha, we now have one side done. I'm just going to change the depth of this because no, that's not what I wanted. You may be saying, okay, we have one side of our garden bed, but we have 1, 2, 3 sides left that needs to happen. How are we going to do this? The way I'm going to do it is I'm actually going to replicate or duplicate and repeat this whole plank to be here, here, and here. And the way I'm going to do that, I'm going to show in a moment. But first, I know I just said a lot of words. Raise your hand if you're at this point here, just so I know if we're ready to continue going forward. Okay. If you need any help, feel free to let me know in the Q&A part and I can answer privately, or if I feel it's something that I need to answer publicly, because a lot of people must be struggling with it, I'll go ahead and answer. But let me know by raising your hand if you're at this step and ready for us to move on. Okay, I see a lot of hands raised. If you're not raising your hand, I want to see you actually send me a question so I can actually help you. Remember, what's the point of tinkering together if we're not actually tinkering together? So if you have a question, let me know. Someone did ask a really good question. If you're tinkering in Tinkercad, how do you know how big something is? If you click these white squares at the bottom, it will tell you the actual dimensions. And you see here, this was supposed to be 12 inches and it's saying it's not 12 inches. Now I can course correct. So anytime you click these little white squares, it actually tells you the size. If you're not sure if you're in inches or millimeters, just go ahead to your lower right-hand side and you can look at the measurements or units that way. So if you have any other questions, feel free to hit me up in the Q&A part. Sometimes there are questions I think all of us may have, but we're just too scared to ask them. Remember, this is us tinkering together. Okay, it looks like we have a bunch of hands raised. So what I'm going to do is lower everyone's hand. Tinkercad is again acting a little glitchy to me, so I'm just going to refresh this model. I'm going to keep my fingers crossed that it's still there. And yes, it's still there. Perfect. So now I'm going to focus on how to actually address these other sides right here. So the first thing I'm going to address is doing this side and this side, or here to here, because it's a square and it doesn't matter. So the first thing I'm going to do is click the panel that I want to duplicate, go over to the duplicate and repeat tool, duplicate and repeat. Now that I've duplicated it, I'm going to notice that it's in the exact same spot as the other one, but I need for it to not be, because previously we had the panels this way and we want to rotate it so it's this way for the other side. So we're going to have to use the rotate tool again, as well as the align tool. So let's get to it. So if we go back into Tinkercad, we're going to have to use the rotate tool first. So now that we have our duplicate version of that panel, you're going to see right here, if I shine a little spotlight on it, that there's a double arrow right here. This allows for us to rotate on the work plane as such. Click, and I'm going to rotate 90 degrees. So you can click and just type it in. Press enter, and we've rotated 90 degrees. Next up, I'm going to have to move this shape over here. Now I can drag the shape, or if I want to be more precise, I'm going to use my keyboard keys in order to move it exactly there. If you want to get a zoomed in version, go ahead to your left-hand side and click fitted view, and you can actually see your wooden panel. I did too much. Right there. If we do a top view, we can see that there's a slight gap there, so we can move it just in. And let's click off and go back to our home view. It zoomed us in. So to make sure that this plank is aligned with this, we're going to click here, go to our align tool, which is on our right-hand side, or using the L key, and we're gonna make sure we're aligned down the middle. Now, once we made sure we're aligned down the middle, let's check our top view, and it looks like we're doing pretty solid. Okay. Once we've done that though, let's see if we can click off again, and click back to this panel. And we're gonna try to do the same thing in order to address this. So we're gonna go ahead to the duplicate and repeat tool and click it one more time. Now you notice it didn't do like it did before with the wooden planks. And that's because we actually clicked off, which disabled us actually repeating the steps. So this time we're not gonna click off. If that sounds confusing, don't worry, just follow along and see how I'm doing it. And then we're gonna do this again together. So first thing, I'm gonna click here and I'm gonna rotate 90 degrees, -90. Next up, I'm actually gonna go back to this view because it's a lot easier for me to move. Use my keys to move my plank. You can also use your mouse if you feel more comfortable. I see a couple questions on that. And moving this down, checking my camera angle on my left-hand side. And boom, that looks pretty decent. Let me check my camera angle again. Looks pretty solid. And now I'm just gonna go ahead, instead of clicking off, I'm gonna go back to my left-hand toolbar and do duplicate and repeat. And you see here that you already have your side automatically done. That's because when you click off, it goes, oh, you don't need us to keep following you or memorizing your steps. Okay, that's fine. Unfortunately, the only thing we need to do is some slight tweaking because we're slightly off here. So what I'm gonna do is move it down, move it slightly, and boom, have it there. Now there's other ways you can do this. You can drag and drop and rotate as needed. I like doing it this way because it allows for me to minimize how much work, because you didn't have to rotate this and get it exactly lined up against your actual black box here. You can actually just press the duplicate and repeat tool and just do some slight tweaking in order to make it work here. I'm a stickler for things being aligned, so I'm gonna select this side, and this side. I said side, but I meant the base. Go over to my right-hand side, click the align tool. If you see it's light gray, it's already aligned. Check my camera angle on the left-hand side. This is already light gray, which is letting me know everything's aligned on the work plane. And I'm gonna double check next, this side to the base of my garden and this side. I'm gonna go back to the align tool, noticing that is gray. If I change my left-hand camera angle so it's aligned this way, and if I change my camera angle again towards the front, I see that it's aligned this way. So everything's hunky-dory. So if I do a home view, zoomed in again, no! This is what our garden looks like. And I'm just gonna slowly rotate it. It looks like a pretty decent box. So this is just showing us how we can actually assemble our box here. So I'm gonna go back to the top view. If you see right here, there's a little bit of, you can see there's a little bit of overlap. Don't worry about it. We're gonna learn some more skills on how to address that tomorrow. So I want everyone's hand raised if they're at this step. I'm willing to repeat what I just did to make sure everyone's with me. Now, if you don't want to use your keyboard strokes in order to do this and you want to do it by hand, and what I mean by hand is using your mouse and rotating and moving it exactly along with the align tool, that's totally fine. There's 15 different ways to create this. I'm just showing you one particular way that I do it using the actual duplicate and repeat tool. So I see a couple of folks are like, hold on, I'm just getting my sides aligned. No worries, just raise your hand once you get your sides aligned. I see a couple people are still trying to do the duplicate part. Don't fret. Just go ahead and do what you need to do. I'm just going to talk a little bit longer about some other things that I'm going to be doing. So actually said, one second. Remember we actually said that each of these pieces is 12 inches. Well, when you make a garden bed, the garden bed isn't necessarily just 4 sides, right? You also need to make a bottom, which is why I put that black box on the bottom. That's going to serve as our fake bottom or the soil of our garden bed. I'm going to actually design the bottom very quickly and show you all, which is going to require me actually reviewing all the steps we did today in order to bring our garden bed to life. So let's get started on that one. So I'm going to show you all the tools that made the sides by doing the garden bottom. So this is your opportunity to get one last refresher before we move on to what exactly does your garden bed look like. Since I've showed you what my basic one looks like, let's look at what you can come up with. So one more time, what I'm going to do here is I'm going to click that black box there. So I'm going to do it one more time with the spotlight. So I'm selecting this object. What I wanted to do is I'm going to go to my right-hand side and click my light bulb because I want her to disappear. So I'm going to click that to have her disappear. The next thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to take one of my sides. So I'm going to take my original side and I'm going to go back and I'm going to duplicate. So when I duplicate that side, instead of rotating her based on the work plane here, I'm going to look at this double arrow here. If we look at it from the front view with a slight tilt right there, you can actually see this one is going to rotate her in terms of depth. The reason why I want this rotation is I actually want to change my duplicate side panel from here to here. So I want it to no longer stand vertical, but back to horizontal. We did the opposite of this when we originally designed our wooden planks and they were horizontal. We used that rotation tool to make it vertical. So what we're doing is the reverse of what we did earlier. So let's go back into Tinkercad and let's make our actual bed, or the basic part that's going to fill up with soil. So now I'm going to rotate my duplicate and I'm going to rotate her 90 degrees. Once I've rotated her 90 degrees, I'm going to use my keys in order to move her back in. Now, if I play with my camera angle on the left-hand side, give me 1 second, you'll actually notice it looks like she's kind of floating on air. So now we have the opposite problem. Before, our actual plank, our actual stack of wooden planks were being cut by the work plane. Now they're actually just floating up in air. So what we're going to do is click this actual black triangle. We're going to click her and bring her down. The only number that's really moving is this number right here. This number is the distance from the work plane to the actual object. We want that number to be 0 because we want this plank to actually be on the bottom of our work plane. Now that we've done that, we have to actually sit back and look at some math for a second. I'm gonna adjust her so she's right there. So, using our actual text tool, I'm gonna do our math part right here. So we know that each side is 3 wooden planks. Each wooden plank has a width equals 1.5 inches. So we need to take account the actual width of that plank, which is 3 times 1.5 inches is the actual distance from here to here of our bottom plank. The reason why this is important for us to know is that we need to figure out how many of these we need to fill up this empty space or the blue space here. So what I want everyone to do is get a calculator or use their actual browser, because if you're in Google Chrome or Microsoft Edge, you can actually type in 3 times 1.5 inches and press the enter key in order to get an answer. The reason why this is important is we need to know how many of these in order to fill up this space. Once you get an answer, I want you to tell me in the Q&A part, what is 3 times 1.5 inches? Don't overthink it, just go ahead and send me a number. So 3 times 1.5 inches. What is the actual width of one of those wooden plank panels, like here, here, here? If you remember how Tinkercad shows you dimensions, there's another way you can kind of cheat and know what 3 times 1.5 inches is without having to pull out a calculator. So I want you to show me, what is the actual width of this plank? Okay, I see a couple of numbers coming in. I see a couple of numbers. Let me know, was 3 times 1.5 inches? If you want to know the trick on how to know what's the actual width of your new object, go ahead and click that white square here, and you can see the number pop up. It says 4.5 inches. I'm gonna click it one more time, and you can see it says 4.5 inches, and the length is still 12 inches, which is the same length right here. So we know the answer to 3 times 1.5 inches for the 3 wooden planks is 4.5 inches or 4.5 inches. Now, we know from here, just to do like 60 where I'm at, from here to here is about 12 inches. Now, we're gonna get into some specifics of what this little part here and this little part here adds to the party, but we know this is 4.5 inches. So the next math equation I want you to use on your scrap piece of paper to get comfortable with is how many times 4.5 inches goes into 12 inches, or what is 12 divided by 4.5 inches? Go ahead and do that and let me know in the Q&A what's your actual answer. Okay, I see a couple people are like, hold on. This is complicated math. This is complicated math. Don't worry. I said we're going to stretch all of your muscles in showcasing how you can bring your ideas to life using STEAM. So I'm not just going to sit here and do CAD models with you or circuits. We're stretching every part of your muscle today. So I'm going to show you on the calculator. 3 times 1.5 inches is 4.5 inches. Next up, 12 inches divided by 4.5 inches is a lot of digits. It's 2.6666666667. That's how many times 4.5 inches goes into 12 inches, which means we're pretty much going to be looking at 2 and maybe 2 more planks in order to cover those 12 inches. But there's a problem. There's a mini problem. And after we do this part, you're going to really feel like an engineer. Trust me on this one. So if we go back to our Tinkercad model, let's go ahead, since we know it's 2 of these planks, let's go ahead, duplicate, and repeat the same. Oh, you know what? I'm not going to do that. I'm going to click this actual plank. I'm going to go over to my left-hand side to make my life easier. I'm going to go to my left-hand side and click the copy tool, and then I'm going to click the paste tool. This will be Control C and then Control V if you're using your keyboard. And then I'm going to use my key to do the second one. So right here we can see if we change on our left-hand side our camera angle, this is 1, this is 2. So we already have 2 planks in our actual bottom of our garden bed. So now we need to fill up this space right here. Now, 2.6666666667 can be translated into a fraction. So if you've done fractions before, you'll know 12 divided by 4.5 equals 2.66666667. Or it is 2 2/3 is the number of times our plank can fit at the bottom of this, right? Now, how many planks make up one side? There's 1, 2, 3. So if each of our plank sides is made up of 3 mini planks, see, I'm trying to write notes. Trying to write the notes. It's hard to write notes. A number of times our plank sides fit the bottom of our garden bed. And we can see that in Tinkercad. We can actually see that this bottom 1, 2, and it looks like there could be space for at least 1 additional plank. Now, we have 3 of these, correct? So what's 2/3 of 3 planks? There's 1, 2, 3. So what's 2/3 of 3 planks? That means all we need to do is remove 1 plank. So 2/3 of 1 plank is 2 of these planks. So what we're actually going to do in Tinkercad is we're going to ungroup 1 of our trio planks that we're going to copy, remove 1 of these planks to fill up the gap at the bottom of our garden bed. So let's show how to do that. So we're going to do, going over to our left-hand side once again, we're going to copy and we're going to paste. And you see here how it's not really filling up because it's overlapping. So what I'm going to do is move this over. And you see kind of we're in that little weird spot there. But what I can do is go over to my right-hand side and click the ungroup button. When I ungroup, I should have each one of my individual planks. So instead, let me click off, click back over, and change my camera angle on my left-hand side. And you see this one plank kind of hanging out. I'm going to go ahead and click the delete button to get rid of that plank. So this is, oh, sorry. The other thing I wanted to do was to group this plank and my other plank that's sticking out right here. So this plank and this plank, I want to group them back together. So that way, ooh, I forget the multicolor. Y'all have to remind me of the multicolor. So now I have 1, 2, and 2 2/3 planks to make up my actual bottom. So if we go back over here, our math showed that if each 3 plank is 4.5 inches, and each length is 12 inches, we had to figure out how many of those 3 plank sides was gonna cover the length of our garden bed bottom. So what we did was how many times does 4.5 inches go into 12 inches? And we found out it was 2.66667, or 2.66667 equals 2 2/3, which means it goes 2 2/3 times into the garden bottom. At first, we were a little perplexed. How do we get that 2.66667 or that 2 2/3? And what we did is we basically, in Tinkercad, went from our 3 wooden planks, took 1 to make it 2/3. And that's how we covered the bottom. Now there's one other thing we need to cover before we finish with this model today. And I'm going to show you that in Tinkercad. Now this is the final thing to make you realize why measurements are so important when it comes to CADing. If we look from our top view, we'll notice it's not that bad what we're looking at. Like it looks pretty aligned. But then when we actually look at it from the sides, checking our camera angles using that left-hand side, we notice there's a little bit that's kind of overlapping, right? So if we look at it from the top view, it looks okay. But if we look at it from the side, there's a little bit of an overlap. Now, let's go back to our top view. I'm going to ask you all a question. What do you think is accounting for that little overlap over here? What do you think we didn't take into account in our 3D models that would allow for that little bit of gap to exist out here? So you see this little bit? Like if we zoom here, we can see, I'm gonna change my angles a bit so you can see that the length of that little side panel stops here. But we go past that right here. And if I was to give you a little bit more of a hint, this gap here that we go above looks similar in thickness to the thickness of our actual panel sides. So, why do we have an overhang here that looks similar to the thickness of our actual garden sides? Let me know in the Q&A part what you're actually thinking we didn't take into account. For those who are asking earlier how I made the dirt disappear, I'm going to show you how I made the dirt disappear because we got to bring the dirt back after we finish this part. So, why do we think we have that little overhang there? Don't stretch your brain out too much. I just want to see a couple more responses. Why do we think we have that little gap, that little overhang? I'm going to show you. Now, this is the part that engineers don't really show you as why it's important to understand math. So if we look here, we have that little overhang, right? Let me put a spotlight on it. And don't worry if you're not following, just listen and look at your screen. You see we have this overhang and it looks like the same width of here, correct? So one of the things we have to keep in mind when we do 3D designs is that most of the time we occupy ourselves with length and with width, right? But we always seem to forget when we're doing stuff in 3D that we have to take into account thickness. So when we actually made our Tinkercad model, our actual width of our project isn't actually 12 inches. The reason why it's not 12 inches, let's look at it from the top view. If the thickness of this wooden panel here, as we stated before, if the thickness of this panel here is 0.25 inches, then we've already taken 0.25 inches from this plane here. So I'm going to show you here. The actual length of our side is 12 inches, right? That's the length from, let's go from here, here to here. So I want you to write on your piece of paper, I want you to write down 12 inches. And I want you to draw another rectangle that's 12 inches by 1.5 inches. And then draw another rectangle that's 12 inches by 0.25 inches, which is going to replicate or showcase this. Once you do that, I want you just to listen, and we're going to do this together. The reason why there's that overhang is because the actual distance from here to here, I'm going to show you again, distance from here to here may be 12 inches, but if we include this panel and this panel, the thickness of these two panels takes away some of our length here. So instead of from here to here being 12 inches, it's 12 inches minus the width of this panel and the width of this panel. Now, we already know the width of that panel, thanks in part to our measurements before, and we can just click on that little white square. You see me zooming in to show you. We just click on a little white square and we see it's about 0.24, it's supposed to be 0.25 inches. I can actually go ahead and edit that. So it's supposed to be 0.25 inches. So it was actually 12 inches minus 0.25 inches minus 0.25 inches. So let's go ahead and add that to our math right here. So on a piece of paper with me, on the rectangle that says 12 inches by 0.25 inches, that's the length of your rectangle. Which means if you're adding two panels below it, that's 12 inches minus the width of panel 1 minus the width of panel 2. Now, we already know the width of panel 1 and the width of panel 2 are supposed to be 0.25 inches. So we can go ahead and do 12 inches minus 0.25 inches minus 0.25 inches is similar to 12 inches minus 0.5 inches, which means the actual width is 11.5 inches we need in order to fill in this actual bed. So 11.5 inches is what we need. So that part that's sticking out on that little side here, if we go ahead and put our spotlight back on, the actual width sticking out that has lost its little home is about 0.5 inches, because that's how long this here is longer, is 12 inches, but the actual space inside should be about oh my God, I'm getting tongue-tied. See, math gets you tongue-tied. I think that's what makes people scared of it. It's actually 11.5 inches. So that means we need to figure out how to get our actual plank to be 11.5 inches. So instead of our actual thing being 12 inches divided by 4.5 inches, we need to do 11.5 inches divided by 4.5 inches. So instead of 12 inches divided by 4.5 inches, which let us know how many times those planks can fit in, we need to do 11.5 inches divided by 4.5. And I'm going to do the math for you so you don't have to worry, but I want you to write this down because I want you to look over it, because tomorrow we're going to be bringing your own to life. And this is some very important skills that you need to know to make sure you don't make this mistake. So I'm going to go ahead on my calculator and I'm going to do 11.5 divided by 4.5 inches. And I find out it's approximately 2.55 times, right? Into 11.5 inches. Now, that starts to seem complicated, right? You're already asking me in the Q&A part, but Ms. Nisha, this is too much math. How did you understand so much math? This is getting so complicated. There's a trick to this. So what we can actually do is go to our left-hand camera angle, and instead of worrying about all of this, I'm going to show you a trick. So let's go to our left-hand camera angle and look at the bottom, right? So if we look at our bottom and click off, we can see all of this is off by about 0.25 to 0.5 inches. But what happens if we actually move this bottom of panels over 0.25 inches? So what I'm going to do is select all of my bottoms. I'm going to zoom in so you can see. And using my left arrow key, I'm going to move it 1/8 of an inch, another 1/8 of an inch, which makes 1/4 of an inch. And do you see how it's fitting right there perfectly? I'm going to show you if you don't believe me. I'm going to go ahead to the top. I'm going to do like little angles here. We're going to do a whole 360. Do you see how all of a sudden that bottom is fitting perfectly? What I actually did was, instead of trying to fill in from here to here on the inside, instead what I did was I just made sure it aligned from here to here, which actually is 12 inches. The reason why I took you down this dark path is to show you how quickly, if you don't take into account that third dimension in your models, how that third dimension can mess you up and you start panicking. But don't panic. You can easily remedy those mistakes by making sure that you take slight adjustments and you think outside of the box. Now we're no longer in panic mode. We can actually bring back our soil. So what I'm going to show you right now is how we bring back our soil into this project, and then we'll be done and ready to get started for tomorrow, which you actually bring your own garden project to life. So let's go back and let's bring that soil in. So click in here. I'm going to click share. Remember that light bulb tool I showed you earlier? What I'm going to do is go to my right hand side, click the light bulb, and ta-da, it's back. If I want it to actually disappear, what I can do is click off and then just click that actual soil. Go back to my right hand side, click the light bulb to make it disappear. And when I want to bring it back in, click this light bulb and it brings it back in. So now I actually have my garden bed. To make this look more realistic, what I'm actually going to do is just bring in, oh no, someone's light bulb doesn't work. Okay, don't worry. If your light bulb doesn't work, you may have to refresh your page. So here, press the light bulb in the shape toolbar to make it disappear. If you want it to come back, click here to actually bring it back. The only other thing I'm going to add to my prototype is I'm going to go to my right-hand side. I'm going to go down to my actual Smithsonian collection, and I'm going to bring an orchid from my Smithsonian collection and bring it to my work plane so I can actually have some flowers in my garden bed project. So I'm just going to randomly put some flowers because I'm going to align them a little bit later. But you can see here how I actually have my little garden bed here. And I'm just using the Smithsonian collection. Feel free to use any other flowers you see in any of the actual components collections you see here. So no sweat, no sweat. And I know a couple of you are like, Ms. Nisha, you didn't have to take us through that math detour. I wanted to, because tomorrow when you actually do your own project, I'm not going to be sitting there with you on that side of the screen. And I want you to know it's okay. You're going to be having a lot of numbers, but there's very quick and easy fixes if you're not strong in math or you're not comfortable with multiplication and division that you can do in order to make sure your project can still actually come to life. So no worries. You see, we've gone to the beautiful side of it. We've gone to just actually adding little flowers. I'm just quickly aligning a couple of my orchids here to make sure they don't drive me crazy, because I like things to be aligned. That's why the align tool is my favorite. So you see me just going through, being busy and making sure that this bad boy is aligned to show my little orchard garden. Now, orchards don't typically grow in a garden bed like this, but we're using this as a looks like, works like prototype. And so we see here that they look pretty okay. And I can add some more soil to my garden bed, but I think this is cool for right now. And ta-da! I have my actual garden bed. So I see a couple of you have asked me a couple of questions. Let me go through it. Oh, okay, somebody had their actual light bulb started working again. Okay, so that has been resolved. Do you have any questions? I know the math part. Math is always the enemy of somebody on a webinar. Do not fret. Hopefully what I just explained made sense in regards to, if you feel it's slightly overlapped, when you're doing boxes, all you really need to do is just shift it over, that all the planks here actually start off at this corner instead of trying to start off where the first plank is. So to change my camera view to explain this a little bit better, the reason I showed you that math detour is that instead of, let me change my view, starting here on the inner corner of your box, start here. So that way you can make a bottom that not only covers from here to here, which is 12 inches, you don't have to deal with the complicated math of actually making an insert of your garden bed that goes from here to here. So that's what all the math was about. Do not fret, do not worry. This is just how I would actually make a 3D design model of a garden bed. I'm gonna jazz it up a little bit, and I'm gonna go to my right-hand toolbar as I look for more questions from you all. And I'm gonna go to the text and numbers toolbar. And of course, I have to brand everything. So I'm gonna bring over the text shape tool. If she wants to follow along with me, come with me and you'll see a world of pure imagination. If she would actually show up, because I want to actually brand my garden. And I wanna put Mbadika in big, bold letters. There we go. I wanna add Mbadika to my garden box so everybody knows that this is my garden. Oh, I want all caps. I wanted to make sure it screams that this is Mbadika. I want to change the color because my favorite color is blue. And just like I did before, I'm going to use my left camera angle in order to rotate my shape. And just do it that way. Let's do 90 degrees. Is that enough? Yes. I'm going to raise that bad boy up. And I'm going to slowly move her, booyaka, into my actual work plane. So when I look at it from the front, it's Nisha's garden shed, or garden bed. I said shed, garden bed. So now we have my garden bed project. And of course, in order to make this legit, I'm gonna drag from here and select all. So everyone is a part of this group. Click the group icon on the right-hand side. Click solid. Because I don't want it all being the same color. Let's make sure it stays multicolored. And multicolor is selected, so I'm good to go. And now I can use my left-hand camera angle and play around with what would be a really good snapshot of my garden to post on social media. And so boom. I think that's a good shot. I'm gonna zoom her in a little bit. I'm gonna click off of her so she don't look like something's wrong. I'm gonna go over to my right-hand side and click send to, and I can actually download a screenshot of my actual garden bed to post on the actual Mbadika Twitter account, as well as Instagram. So before we wrap up for today, do you all have any additional questions for me? It seems like everyone is still trying to make theirs look pretty, so I'm gonna let you continue doing that. Just like before, if you would actually like to share a screenshot of what you're working on, I can actually see what you're doing on your computer screen. I can even see what's on your webcam. So feel free to post on social media. You can follow us on social media, but make sure you're using a parent or guardian's account, because technically, if you're on here, you're not supposed to have a social media account. And I don't need to know if you do. I don't need to know if you do for legal reasons. But feel free to post on social media what you actually created here during our Mbadika Autodesk / Tinkercad. Oh gosh, this is what I know is close to lunch. The Mbadika Autodesk Tinkercad webinar of Tinkering Together. Feel free to follow us at Mbadika. I'm putting it already in the chat. And when you post an image, don't forget to use the hashtag #TinkerTogether. That allows for us to actually find your post and see what you actually made during these webinar sessions. If you have any feedback from me personally in regards to how to make this better, feel free to send it in the Q&A part. As always, I stay here for another 5 minutes after the top of the hour to answer any of your questions or any last bits of feedback that you want to send my way. Hopefully, I didn't bombard you with too much math. I actually can see it in the Tinkercad gallery. If you make your actual Tinkercad model public, I still ask that you post it on social media so I know it's there, because I'm not giving you my email address, so I would have no way of knowing if it's actually in the Tinkercad gallery. So that's it for that. If you have any additional questions or feedback for me, feel free. But this is just the first step of our project. Tomorrow, I'm going to show you how to actually prototype in order to bring it to life. And I see a lot of you are like, how did you learn so much math? Well, that's pretty much the M in STEAM. It's science, technology, engineering, arts, and mathematics. So math is essential to all the other letters in STEAM. And I know math can be daunting, but I hope that seeing it through Tinkercad and seeing it visually, it starts to make more sense. When we build our gardens tomorrow, I'm gonna hopefully show you guys what that little overlap looks like in real life, so you can understand why it's so important to actually double check your measurements to make sure everything's okay. So I'm gonna hang back for about 3 to 4 minutes, and I'm just gonna be playing around. If you guys want me to actually have my Tinkercad model as a screen share, raise your hand so I can let you see that model while you're asking me questions as we round out today's lesson. But you guys did a lot. You guys just basically did what I have my first year engineering students do, which is create a box using computer-aided design software. So if I were you, I'll be patting myself on the back if I made it this far, because it's no easy feat. But these are the key skills you need in order to make something. Oh yes, we're making an actual garden. This is why I was harping on making mistakes and showing you how to remedy them and why those mistakes can affect a real life model. So we're gonna make a real garden. If we make it out of the cardboard that you've collected today, go ahead and set that aside. We're gonna make it with cardboard. We're gonna have a couple more materials tomorrow, but yes, we're making a real garden. And you're gonna see why it was so important to make sure your Tinkercad model was on point, to remedy any of these mistakes, and to make your real life garden model be on point. So I'm gonna stay back for a couple of minutes. Feel free to ask questions, but otherwise, see you tomorrow. Hope you guys had fun, or at least got to explore something new and interesting as we tinker together. So I'm gonna go ahead and start adding a couple of more flowers and stuff, but feel free to ask me some questions. Also, for those who are staying behind a bit, and I can see a couple of people typing questions, we're actually, fingers crossed, I'm trying to see, because I think us getting out of just being in the traditional classroom space or being in one type of space is going to be good for us. So I'm hoping the weather is crazy today, but tomorrow I'm hoping we can actually do something outside. So tomorrow, hoping, fingers crossed, fingers crossed, fingers crossed, we can do something outside so we can actually get our garden together and be able to do some really cool stuff with it. So fingers crossed that actually works out, because I've been going a little stir crazy being stuck inside because of the weather, and I really want some sunshine. And what better way for not only me to get some sunshine, but to share some sunshine with you all tomorrow. So I need all your fingers crossed and positive energy that tomorrow's weather proves better so we can actually do our garden session outside. So, okay, I see another question. Yes. Using the hashtag is important because that allows for us to search images. Today, you're going to start seeing us actually reposting some of the images you guys posted earlier in the week, so we can actually showcase what amazing stuff you guys have been building. When I say you guys are doing fantastic work from what I can see from your posts, trust me, I don't do what I like to say are baby projects. I do projects that are going to actually be helpful to bringing your ideas to life. And what I mean by that is each project that we select is teaching you a certain skill and mindset that you need in order to actually bring a wide range of ideas you may come across or come up with to actual reality through CAD or computer-aided design or prototyping with everyday items in your house. So I know it's a lot, but trust me, you're going to start seeing a difference when we actually do our final couple of projects this week to round out our Tinkercad Tinker Together webinar series. Okay, so all additional questions I'll be answering tomorrow morning. I hope you guys have an amazing morning, and this was a great kickstart to it. Got those creative juices flowing and got your brain going at like 100 miles per hour. I can't wait to see you guys tomorrow morning, but until next time, don't forget to build, make, learn, and let's continue to tinker together. See ya! Ba-da-da-da-da. Ba-da-da-da.